lies beneath its surface. From around the world, reports have emerged about sailors seeing something thought to be mere legend, huge and aggressive mammals with a taste for destruction.
Still don't have much of an idea how old these animals are, how long they can live.
It's essentially equal to an underwater locomotive.
The shape of the skull with this amphitheater of bone in the back is completely unique.
I could start to hear the clang, the characteristic sound, the echolocation that they put out. And the clang would get louder and louder.
Eyewitnesses report seeing rare white sperm whales. These monsters are said to measure up to 70 feet in length, weigh some 50 tons, and possess rows of 40 to 50 sharp teeth. As the largest toothed predators on the planet, they possess frightening strength and often have scars from their fierce sea battles. Fishermen the world over have feared this beast for centuries.
It was the whale's mouth that had me trapped.
Quando fui assim com a mão para baixo, é que vi que estava preso naquilo.
Jose Silvino is a former whaler who lives on Pico Island, west of Portugal. Silvino knows firsthand what it's like when a predator this size turns aggressive.
We had the whale harpoon and the whale starts to turn circles.
The whale dove and then seemed to target the small boat, capsizing it.
I flew off the boat and was hanging on the side of the boat. The whale comes again underneath the boat for the second time, and I feel now that I'm stuck between the side of the boat and something, but I don't know what it is. I was trapped, and I realized that it was the whale's mouth that had me. I was at the end, near the last two teeth of the jaw. The whale starts to dive, and I thought it was over. As the whale starts to go down, he opens his mouth and lets me go.
Silvino managed to escape.
The whale was crazy. It hit the boat with its tail. The tail whip was so violent that it broke the boat.
There was another boat filled with his cousins close by. Silvino climbed aboard, fearful the whale would attack again.
We were about an hour and a half out at sea. They brought me to the hospital.
Silvino spent a month in the hospital. He waited 5 more before returning to the sea. The whale used its tail to shatter Silvino's boat, but the beast's most powerful weapon is thought by some to be its massive head. While there have been numerous reports of these beasts aggressively ramming boats, some biologists think the aggression attributed to sperm whales is exaggerated.
If you think about it, an animal that big, 60 feet, 60 tons, it doesn't really pay to get in a fight if you don't have to.
Dr. Ted Cranford, a biology professor at San Diego State University, has been studying whales for 2 decades. He is skeptical that whales use their heads as weapons.
If you were going to use something as a battering ram, don't you think you'd rather have something that had something pretty hard in it, like a big bony mound or something like that?
Despite Cranford's skepticism, stories have persisted about a whale that may be more aggressive than others, a white or albino sperm whale. It was stories of just such a whale that were the basis for Herman Melville's 1851 literary classic, Moby Dick. Albinism is a genetic mutation that prevents the production of normal pigmentation in animals. These rare whales have only been spotted a handful of times. One of those instances was here in the Azores, off the coast of Pico Island, the site of a former whaling station. This amazing and rarely seen footage was captured by an underwater photographer.
It was probably, I'm guessing, 24, 25 feet by that time. Still, obviously, a young whale.
This completely white sperm whale was photographed swimming near a large group or pod of mature whales.
It could be dangerous if one sort of lost one's composure during the time that they were really close. It was pretty unique in my experience of seeing a lot of unique things in the water.
Now Monster Quest will travel to the Azores in the eastern Atlantic. Their search will focus on finding out just how aggressive these albino whales might be. The area was an active whale hunting ground until 1987. It has a population of whales living close by. More importantly, this is the area where the completely white whale was recently spotted. The expedition team is made up of diver Dale Pearson, mammal expert Dr. Esteban Sarmiento, animal tracker Mark Peterson, and technology expert Jeremy Holden.
Is there a reason why we came to this exact spot in these islands here?
Well, yeah. I mean, right here. There's a reason right here. This novel right here is about a white whale that attacks boats. We've had a sighting on these islands, in the waters surrounding these islands, of a white sperm whale.
Here.
So, here.
Pearson believes he knows why the white whale might be aggressive.
If you're a white animal, you know, the other sperm whales are grayish and darker color. They can blend in more to the ocean. If you're a white whale and you're just standing out glowing, you're going to be more accessible to predation from the time you're born. So you're going to have to develop an attitude to defend yourself, because you're going to be being attacked more.
Right.
Something different, something easier, and in the ocean, when you're different and easier to spot, that means you're easier to kill.
These massive beasts grow for the first 50 of their 80-year life cycle. As a result, they must feed constantly, and the huge predators are always on the lookout for food.
This thing's probably could have developed an attitude, and now we've got a potential for another one out here.
Sperm whales exist all over, but the fact is that a white sperm whale was sighted right off the coast here.
So we're on the south of Picos Island at the moment, around about here. And the pod are usually sighted in this area south of Picos.
The team must plan their search with the knowledge that sperm whales can dive to depths of almost 10,000 feet and stay submerged for over an hour.
To actually close on the whales in a boat, deploy divers into the water, and be able to get to a point where you can actually film and perform these experiments is much more difficult than just spotting them with the binoculars.
What I'm going to be doing as we're out there is I'll also be looking for a break in the surface of the water. Anything that's not normal, that's not supposed to be there. So I could actually spot something myself as well.
It's nothing, yeah?
The craft the team has secured is a Valiant PT-860. Small, fast, and highly maneuverable. It is ideal for this search.
This is what I want you to see.
The ship's captain shows Pearson something that can be even more dangerous than the whale they're hunting.
This is the Portuguese man of war, and this is probably one of the most dangerous things out here. I mean, you have a bigger problem with this than you will any kind of shark. Potentially, this right here is a real problem, because there's how many of these are out here right now, would you say?
About millions.
Millions.
The team loads up the gear into their fast and lightweight rubber boat. They'll use the craft to search and then deploy the divers as closely as possible to the whales.
Got it? Beautiful sunny day, great conditions. No whales yet, but so far so good. Good signs.
The team searches the waters for food sources that are likely to attract the whales. But just moments into the dive, there's a dangerous problem.
He caught a man of war to his face.
Get some gloves on and peel this thing off my face.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
The team has brought a trained paramedic for exactly this type of situation. He pours vinegar on Dale's face to neutralize the toxins on his skin.
You know, you see it on your face.
No, it's extremely painful. It feels like, seriously, like someone's shoving a knife into the side of my face right now.
Monster Quest is searching the waters of the Atlantic Ocean near Portugal for a rare, aggressive albino whale. The sperm whale is the largest toothed predator on the planet and has been hunted since the early days of ocean travel. Early seafaring man thought the whales were sea monsters, like the Leviathan that swallowed Jonah whole. Then sailors in the 1500s found they could hunt the whale for food and used its skin for shelter and the bones to make tools. When the Pilgrims arrived on Cape Cod in 1620, they learned whaling techniques from the Native Americans. As the colonies grew, so did the demand for whale products. By the 1800s, America was able to light the world with whale oil, an industry that would last until the discovery of petroleum. A single sperm whale was known to yield as much as 100 barrels of oil, but its size alone made it dangerous prey. The whales were known to ram ships, sending them to their final resting place. The most famous incident involving a whale sinking a ship occurred in 1820.
The Essex sailed from Nantucket and pursued whales in the South Pacific.
Steve Olson Smith is an English professor at Boise State University. He says this disaster was the inspiration for the epic tale of Moby Dick.
One of the bull whales in the pod retaliated against the ship and rammed its bow with its forehead, put a hole in it, and sent the ship going down.
The theory at the time was that the hammering of the ship's carpenter repairing one of the smaller harpoon boats mimicked the sound of an attacking whale.
They got into whale boats and watched their ship go down, and the crew was left to endure the elements in open whaleboats. They did so for 3 months, experiencing thirst, exposure, cannibalism, dementia, and ultimately death. Of the 20 crew members that were alive at the time of the attack, only 8 survived the ordeal at sea.
The Monster Quest science team is attempting to use computer animation to understand the biomechanics of whale aggression. They believe this may explain the animal's aggressive tendencies.
Sperm whales are not as gentle as many scientists believe them to be.
Dr. David Carrier is a professor of biology at the University of Utah. He has a theory about the evolution of the male sperm whale's massive head.
It would have to function first as a battering ram to injure an opponent, but it would also have to absorb enough of the energy of the impact to protect the attacking whale.
The head of the sperm whale.
There are 2 sort of long sacs of oil. On top is a sac that contains the spermaceti oil itself. That's the oil that the whalers were interested in. It's the oil that is just a really high quality oil for burning. Below the spermaceti sac is another sac which contains a waxier oil, and that sac is partitioned with vertical sheets of connective tissue. And the vertical partitions in the sac that's known as the junk, the partitions of connective tissue, we think are involved in dissipating the energy that's associated with a collision between 2 whales.
This method of dissipating energy has also been employed by humans.
One analogy that we think may be relevant are the crash barrels that are often placed below overpasses on freeways, a series of 100-gallon drums that are in a position to, if a car runs into them, the energy of that crash is going to be dissipated in the explosion of the contents out of the barrels.
Carrier's hypothesis is modeled in the computer.
With just some simple calculations, a simple mechanical model, using dampeners to represent the shock absorption that would occur during impact. And it turns out it is.
Dr. Ted Cranford of San Diego State University is skeptical of the theory.
The sperm whale has the biggest nose in the world. And that nose is basically a bioacoustic sound generator.
Cranford uses a 3D CAT scan of a sperm whale's head to illustrate.
Since this is a gigantic bioacoustical machine, the geometric relationships between all the structures in there is very important in producing a beam of sound out in front of the animal. And it bounces the sound out through this series of lenses that are made out of more fatty material and into the environment.
It is in their nose that the whale generates a distinctive clicking sound. This clicking is thought to be used by whales for echolocation, or detecting positions of objects. If the whale were to damage that sound mechanism, it would be lost at sea.
I don't think it makes a very effective battering ram, is what I was going to say.
The expedition team is continuing its search for a rare white sperm whale that may be more aggressive than its gray counterparts. Dr. Esteban Sarmiento has located an eyewitness who can attest to the fury of sperm whales.
He just grabbed the boat and started chewing.
Antonio Silveria is a former whaler. He still remembers an incident that shook this whaling community to its core.
We harpooned the whale, and I guess the whale got caught between the two boats. And instead of being face down, it was face up with its mouth up in the air. He just grabbed the boat and started chewing along the side of it, the whole length of the boat. I stayed in the boat and saw the whole thing. The whale chewed one of the men in the boat and cut off both of his legs.
The man was taken to the local hospital, where he later died from his injuries. For more than a century, a whale watcher has sat in this tower on Pico Island, spotting whales off the coast and sending signals to the whalers at sea. Whale hunting officially ended here in 1987, but today they use the same methods to spot whales for sightseers. Dr. Sarmiento is on his way to the tower to work with a local spotter to find whales for the team on the water.
Eu vejo aqui com visibilidade boa 23 milhas, mais ou menos.
23 milhas?
23 milhas.
He's able to see as far as 23 miles in a radius, which gives him a pretty large visibility.
Sidonio Goncalves has been spotting whales for 30 years. His father did it for 50 years before him.
Vê a inclinação para a frente e o tipo do...
He's identifying a lot of the whales based on their spray. So, you know, the sperm whale has a characteristic one that goes frontwards, while some of the bigger whales, it goes up to the top. Now, sometimes you have to wait because they have, some usually do it 3 times, others do it 2 times. But he, you know, he's done it so long, for so much time now, that he can just identify it at the first blow. So the sperm whales are here year-round, and in June and July they're closer to the coast. They pretty much follow, you know, I guess the deeper parts of the coast where they feed, and this is in June and July. But otherwise they're found, and in higher numbers now than when they were being hunted. Supposedly, he just told me when they're being hunted, they would leave for a while after a couple of hunts.
The team is facing rough weather.
You know, with the waves, it's obviously harder to spot things, and then it's hard to keep the boat in position and get the divers in the water. It's a little bit more difficult than I had hoped for. You get some calmer seas, and it'll be a lot easier to deal with.
They have yet to see any whales.
But it's actually hard keeping track of the animals. Just as they surface, the boat's going to tip down, I lose the screen. I've got some shots, but I'm not going to review them now because I think if I look down at the screen, I'm probably going to be seasick.
Holden is frustrated.
Probably best that we go back. Disappointing not to see any whales, and it's sad we've got to go back now, but that's just the way it is.
Monster Quest is searching for signs of a massive white sperm whale in the eastern Atlantic, near the Azore Islands. The science team is attempting to determine how much of Herman Melville's Moby Dick was based on reality. Professor Steve Olson Smith has found notes Melville made in one of his sources, a natural history book that said whales were not as monstrous as legend suggested.
Melville freely appropriated factual information from Beale's Natural History of the Sperm Whale, but he altered it to serve his own poetic and philosophical purposes in Moby Dick.
Using modern technology, Olson Smith found new clues about Melville's writing in the margins of this natural history book.
Very often, when there is surviving graphite, pencil lead, within an annotation, infrared technology will pick that up. Adjusting the contrast and the brightness, we can recover a good deal of the words Melville wrote into the book.
What was revealed was that Melville had used a natural history book for basic research on sperm whales, but had then greatly exaggerated aggressive characteristics of the creature.
In one of the notations, the word monster is more or less discernible by the naked eye.
While Melville may have used some creative license, one aspect of Moby Dick's ferocity was based in reality: the idea of an aggressive white whale.
Probably the closest we can come to an idea for Moby Dick is a magazine story Melville read entitled Mocha Dick, the white whale of the Pacific.
Melville's description of the whale was drawn from earlier tales of a great whale called Mocha Dick from the Mocha Islands of southern Chile. It was a killer, and it was albino.
Mocha Dick, the white whale, is said to have a back serried with harpoons and trailing rope lines from unsuccessful efforts to capture him by whalemen.
These rare white sperm whales may be more aggressive because they stand out in the ocean and are more susceptible to attacks by hunters.
White animals in general would be rare because it's a mutation. It's something that's accidental and not deliberate. But it does happen.
Aaron Thode is a whale researcher at the Scripps Institute of Oceanography in San Diego. Thode says it is a mystery why the mutation exists.
So a lot of it's a complete mystery. People have managed to track the same whales or identify the same whales across several years in certain locations. But even now, we still don't have much of an idea how old these animals are, how long they can live, what the migration is.
The sperm whale can dive thousands of feet in seconds and stay submerged for over an hour. This makes tracking the beast very difficult.
People try to estimate how many sperm whales are in the world, and the number is, you know, it's a step above guesswork, but the numbers I hear are on the order of 300 to 400,000. And I wouldn't be surprised if there were a few hundred white sperm whales out there.
Not only could the color of a sperm whale indicate aggression, the sounds it makes could also suggest an upcoming attack.
Whales produce a series of short sounds called clicks and sound a little bit like someone tapping on a window pane. Click, 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 click. There's sounds that are a fraction of a second long.
Thode demonstrates this behavior in this dramatic video. Filmed in 2006, it shows a whale moving towards a fish that Thode placed on the end of a lure as bait. As the whale goes in for the kill, its clicking intensifies.
When they find something interesting, they'll tend to click faster. And as they're closing in on something to eat, They'll click so fast that they'll start to blur in your ear and form what people call creaks or buzzes.
It is unclear if whales use the sounds as a kind of sonar device.
No one's able to record an echo from a sperm whale click. No one's really actually proven, directly that these sounds make an echo return off of prey or off a target. These strong, what I characterize as aggressive clicks, kind of a back off, move away type of click. It sounds like a little bit like a thunderbolt.
Those that hear the sound never forget it.
I could start to hear the clang, the characteristic sound.
Tad Pfister, a professor at the School of Natural Resources at the University of Arizona, was out on the ocean in a small boat with his video camera when he got more than he bargained for.
About 500 meters away, there was some activity. It started to get going, so I got up and I started getting my camera gear together.
Pfister stood up in his 22-foot boat and started to film. What he saw through the lens was a large whale headed directly at him.
As it was approaching the boat and closing the distance, I could start to hear the clang, the characteristic sound, the echolocation that they put out. And the clang would get louder and louder, and the individual was adjusting its course, really honing in on the boat. And as it got closer, it would make fine adjustments. And then as it did its last dive before approaching the boat, it was a very shallow dive, and then it came up and it made contact with the skiff, lifting the skiff up, kind of knocking me into the bilge.
The whale seemed to have no interest in the boat and swam away.
And then about 500 meters again, fluked again and dove and took off. Personally, I took it as a leave me alone, go away, and so I did. I left that individual alone and felt lucky, because it really easily could have capsized the vessel.
What did he say? Got it?
The expedition team is on the hunt for this mysterious creature, while Dale Pearson recovers from his painful man-o'-war sting.
This is my new jelly protection armor system.
So far, the team has spotted dolphins, fish, and turtles, but no sperm whales. They head south, away from the islands. The team moves into position as Dr. Sarmiento heads back to the whale tower. Then comes the signal they've been waiting for.
6-7 milhas, mais ou menos. 6-7 milhas.
He's got a group of sperm whales about 6 or 7 miles away.
Sarmiento radios down, and the team races towards the sighting.
We'll try to pass in front of the whale, maybe 100 meters, something like that. Sometimes a bit more, a bit less, depends on what the animal lets us approach.
The team gears up to get in the water as the captain explains what will happen. The team gears up to get in the water as the captain explains what will happen when they get into position.
I will make a turn and I won't make the whole way. This way you have to swim. This is the animal, we are to this, and you have to swim this. I can't leave the boat there, otherwise it will change without any doubt. So you will have to swim 20, 30 meters, depends, and wait for it to go straight to you. Sometimes they change direction, sometimes they don't. That's the game.
But the whale is gone almost as soon as the divers break the surface.
Not a friendly one.
We've just seen our first sperm whale, a couple of 100 meters off the boat. It seems to be a solitary male, but it's dived down again now, so we're going to just wait around for maybe 20 minutes for it to come back up.
The waiting game begins. Sperm whales can dive up to 10,000 feet and stay underwater for nearly an hour and a half.
Let's see if it appears again, if we can do something with it.
The vigil drags on until suddenly they get what they hoped for.
We just had a spotting of a whale over here.
A blow?
Yeah, no.
Straight ahead?
Straight ahead. Cool, we're on our way.
Monster Quest is in the Atlantic Ocean, searching for aggressive albino whales. The science team has focused its investigation on the sources for Herman Melville's Moby Dick.
Thomas Beale, in Natural History of the Sperm Whale, describes the sperm whale swimming horizontally, but then sounding or descending to a deep depth. And Melville marked Beale's description, and in the margin he wrote that breaching may be the whale's act of defiance.
It is here that Melville, who saw aggression in nearly everything sperm whales did, wrote the word monster. Pilot Sandy Lanham is a rare witness to the aggressive side of sperm whales, a behavior that even extends to others of its kind.
I thought maybe this was a game of chicken.
Lanham is a pilot who spends hours flying over Baja, Mexico, working with sperm whale researchers. One day, while heading to Arizona and flying low over the Gulf of California, she saw something unusual.
I was pretty high, wasn't doing a survey, I was returning home. And I saw, at first, I thought I was looking at a blue whale. It was pretty far in front of me. And I used my binoculars and surprisingly found that they were not blue whales. They were sperm whales. I could tell that they were male sperm whales. The shape of their head is different. And what they were doing is coming at one another.
Using her GPS to estimate their speed, she noticed they were going about 11 miles an hour, about the top speed a creature of this size can reach.
I thought maybe one animal would turn away, but it was not the case. They continued on a path directly towards one another.
As the whales charged, Lanham moved the plane down for a closer look.
And when they reached one another, they rammed. I could see them actually hit head to head, and then their bodies overlapped a bit, and each of them appeared to open their jaw. So what I was thinking was that as a toothed whale, that they were perhaps trying to lock jaws, or maybe they were trying to bite one another. They rolled a bit in the water together. Shortly thereafter, they disappeared. They went down. I imagine after they hit, they were only on surface or slightly below the surface for a few seconds. I have never seen that particular thing before or since.
Lanham suspects there was a good reason for the battle.
I think it's significant that within a few miles of the ramming, there were a group of perhaps 60 female sperm whales with calves.
Monster Quest is in the waters off the Azore Islands in pursuit of just such a whale. They want to see if it is a rare and possibly more aggressive albino sperm whale.
We need to pass in front of it so we can leave the cameramans in front so they can meet each other. Otherwise, there's no chance.
Again, the whale dives before the team can get in position.
Oh, God! The whales are extremely intelligent. And it's almost like he waits for us to get right in position and then dives and just flips us the tail, you know?
The expedition team can't seem to get close, but like the relentless Captain Ahab, they will stop at nothing to find this monster.
So the whales that we're seeing today are probably individuals, lone males, and they're just not hanging out. They're not letting us get close at all.
The team meets to discuss the expedition to this point, and the man-of-war incident remains the biggest surprise of the trip.
How'd you guys do?
Did good.
I found a jellyfish.
Look at.
I can see. Yeah.
What'd you come up with?
I was talking to some locals and went to see the guy at the watchtower that looks for the whales.
Yeah.
I got some pretty good stories really from the locals about getting chewed and people losing their legs.
Really?
From whale attacks, yeah.
The captain gives them discouraging news.
Yeah.
It looks like there's not many sightings today. So it'll be choppy. It's not ideal conditions. That's what we have right now.
The team decides to wait in the marina for a sighting.
We got good looks at whales yesterday. We saw some, but the whales obviously have a high degree of intelligence, because as soon as you come near it, they let you get close enough, and then you feel like you're going to be able to film them, and then they go fluke up. The ocean's a terrible business partner.
Monster Quest is searching the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Portugal for the real Moby Dick. This elusive creature is the subject of terrifying encounters that go back generations. This scholar has uncovered Herman Melville's lost notes, which show how he created his vision of the monstrous whale, Moby Dick. These fishermen were both nearly killed while trying to harpoon a whale. This man's boat was almost capsized by a sperm whale. And this woman witnessed two large bull sperm whales butting heads in a fierce battle over females. The team has targeted an area that has been known to have an elusive albino sperm whale. A new day brings a change in the weather and the team's outlook.
The waves are real low, and we have some sun. The sun allows the spotters to see the spouts, the shoots coming out of the spouts. So it's going to allow us to have the best visibility and the best action that we've had.
The team has found a pod of whales.
Okay, camera's ready. Okay, let's go.
The divers entered the water cautiously.
You have this huge animal with a massive amount of weight going through the water. A diver is no match for that.
Pearson emerges from the sea a few minutes later.
Got it. Got it. They were really close. Really, really close. Two of them right in the frame. I think that's about as close as I want to get right there, you know.
The whales turn out to be pilot whales. While not as large as sperm whales, pilot whales have been known to attack humans. When the team examines photos taken by Jeremy Holden, they get a better look at the sperm whale. and realized just how close they came to the elusive creature. Steve Olson-Smith's research shows that Herman Melville exaggerated many of the details of his book.
Melville's books were, at best, a hybrid achievement of actual experience, factual information, and fiction.
The author's creative license was meant to be artistic.
Ultimately, Moby Dick is about the monstrosity of the world, the barbarity of creation.
Melville appropriated passages from a natural history book describing sperm whales as ferocious creatures with a thirst for human blood, dismissing other accounts that did not support this view. Smith's research also turned up another startling fact. Melville discarded the original and very different ending to Moby Dick.
In the published version of the book, the white whale sinks the Pequod and all hands go down with it, with the exception of the narrator Ishmael, who survives to tell the tale. But in this early rough sketch for a conclusion to the book, Melville seems to have visualized whaling crews in whaleboats towing the carcass of a slain whale away from the vortex created by their sinking ship, indicating that they were to lose their ship but get the whale.
Melville changed his mind and allowed the whale to escape into the unknown. It was an ending he later saw come to life. In 1851, the ship Anne Alexander went down near the same spot where the Essex had sunk.
This whale demolished 2 of its whaleboats and then came back at the ship at high speed and rammed in its bow. And the sailors had to evacuate in their remaining whaleboats and watch their ship go down. And when Melville was told about this disaster by a friend of his, he responded, "I wonder if my evil art has raised this monster."
This Monster Quest expedition has uncovered some interesting evidence about the mystery of Moby Dick. The team documented witnesses who verified the sperm whale is aggressive when threatened. They also found evidence of an albino whale off the coast of Portugal. And the divers found the whale to be an intelligent and elusive animal to track, a fact Melville may have recognized when he changed the ending to his classic book.
I'd say the idea that a sperm whale uses its head for a battering ram is an interesting idea, and it obviously happens sometimes. But it seems like that's the kind of thing that happens under extreme conditions. There have been a few ships that have been sunk, and some whalers have written about them. If you stick them with a harpoon, they're likely to do anything.
They dive deeper than any other mammal. They feed on giant squid. It's a byword for a monster, a byword for a quest.
If you think about how much of the ocean we actually observe, it's been often said that we observe less of the ocean surface than we do of the moon.
The grizzly once ruled alone. Unmatched in size and strength, no creature could challenge the mighty bear. Then came the return of a formidable rival. Tall, rangy wolves from the north now stake their claim to Yellowstone. And somewhere in the backcountry, an epic battle unfolds. It's a clash that echoes all through Yellowstone. In the cauldron of this wilderness, most to lose. Will wolves be the new masters of Yellowstone? Or can the grizzly keep its kingdom and emerge the victor? It's spring in the northwest corner of Wyoming. The year is about to begin for the grizzlies of Yellowstone. By early March, bears begin to emerge from their long winter's nap. They may not have eaten a thing, and with snow still deep, a female and 3 cubs search for a winter kill. Otters have been out all winter, slipping and sliding between streams, looking for patches of open water. They're kept under close watch by a coyote. He's on a constant search for food. This is a world of predators, scavengers, and opportunists. In the thawing surface layer of ice, the grizzlies find a strange windfall. Entombed in the ice all winter, frozen fish are the first banquet of the year for the bears. While the bears search for another easy meal, the wolves of the Hayden pack gather to feast on the rewards of their own hard work. But a bold young bear has found their carcass, and a grizzly is accustomed to taking what he wants. The Hayden wolves size up the situation. The pack is 9 wolves strong, and this is not the largest of bears. He's tried to bury the carcass and defends it from the center of his earthworks. It's his strength against their speed. But the wolves seem to think they can take him. The Haydens prove to be more than the young bear can handle. This time, bears or wolves, it makes no difference to the ravens. They always make their point, but manage to stay above the competition. Bison will face both wolves and bears over the course of their lives, but the first challenge for newborn calves is just keeping up with their mothers. They're on their way to summer pastures, and for the calves, it's sink or swim. Instinctively, the calves seek shelter next to their mothers. But the waters are cold and fast. Too fast for the tiny calves. One has been swept into a logjam and is in real trouble. his mother has suddenly realized what's happening. The calf breaks free, but is not out of danger. Calves often lose their mothers during river crossings, and without her, he can't survive. This calf is a lucky one. He's safe, though utterly exhausted. The Yellowstone River was just one of the first of many perils to come. A grizzly is following behind them, and for the bear, it's hunting season. Yellowstone's 3,500 bison are the largest free-ranging bison herd in the world. As they gather on the greening meadows of Hayden Valley, the old frontier looks very much alive. It's a scene one old grizzly has witnessed many times. This rugged veteran has roamed Yellowstone for almost 20 years, long before wolves were brought back to the park. He is bear number 211, known to bear watchers as Scarface. In his youth, he hunted bison in this great valley. Now, he leaves such high-risk work to a younger generation. The bear has no advantage of surprise, yet he suddenly swings into action. The chase is just youthful exuberance. There's not much hope of success. The bear will need a better strategy. But a truly devious plan is a coyote's speciality. He's so small, no one takes him seriously. He tests a calf. This one's big and strong. Then he finds a smaller one. He pretends to play, but this is no game. If the coyote can coax the calf off by itself, he has every intention of killing it. Just one bite could cripple the calf. But some motherly backup puts an end to all that. Another grizzly is on the calving grounds, and this one has perfected his craft. The grizzly uses his top speed of 56 kilometers per hour to separate a calf from its mother. And though the bison weighs twice as much as the bear, she's young. and undone by the grizzly's aggression. She hesitates, and her calf is lost. For hunters and hunted alike, each encounter in Yellowstone presents a critical choice. What is brave one moment is foolish the next. To fight or to flee, all of life hangs on the decision. With two wolves out on the prowl, a mother elk weighs her options carefully. The wolves have seen her, but not her calf. It's too young to outrun the wolves. Its only defense is to hide and keep completely still. Its mother heads straight for the wolves. Her purpose is to distract them, to keep their attention entirely on her. Again and again she charges, then invites them to chase her, using the river as a safe retreat. She can play this game against two wolves, but she would never attempt this with an entire wolf pack. Frustrated, the wolves give up. The calf owes its life to the tactics and the courage of its mother. Motherhood, even for a grizzly bear, is a test of character. It's June, and a spring snow squall has kicked up, but the bear and her cub are confronting more than just the weather. Wolves from the Druid pack have caught them out in the open. In the tug of war between grizzlies and wolves, the wolves attack where they can. They are after the cub. If they can kill it, they will eliminate a future rival. She's not a big bear, but she stands her ground. The wolves won't risk an injury. Suddenly, it's over. The wolves make a decision, and the bears are free to go. As the two dominant predators in Yellowstone, grizzlies and wolves, make life hard for each other. The cub is vulnerable to the wolves now. If he survives to become a really big bear, the tables will turn. But he'll be a cub for a long time yet, and growing up is a full-time job. Things are even more interesting with a brother or sister. Cubs can turn anything into a toy. Every game lets them discover what they can do, and their mother is always there to supervise. For grizzlies, these are the days of family life. They'll spend 2.5 years under the constant care of their mother. Then the cubs will be big enough to go their separate ways and travel through Yellowstone alone. Until then, she is everything they need. A wolf's lifestyle couldn't be more different. Wolf pups are used to large families. There are 5 pups in the average litter. At 1 month old, they begin to venture away from the den. Their mother is the alpha female, the white wolf with the research collar. But they have other guardians too. Older brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles. A member of the family is always in attendance. When the pups grow up, many will disperse to other packs, looking for a place to belong. Wolves will always be drawn to each other's company. A grizzly ambles along a trail on his solitary way above the den. It's old Scarface. He probably means the pups no harm, but he's come far too close for the wolves' comfort. The adults treat him as a serious threat. It's the pups' first encounter with a bear, and their elders have shown them something valuable. Together, they can challenge a grizzly and defeat it. As for Scarface, he hasn't lived this long without knowing how to avoid real conflict. By the end of June, the high country is bright with color. Summer residents are settling in. They're claiming territories, building homes, finding partners. Even grizzlies get caught up in the social scene. It's the mating season. A courting couple could be mistaken for youngsters playing. But for grizzlies, this is romance. Once she has accepted him, they will wrestle and play and mate many times, staying together for 10 days or so. But their devotion will be fleeting. Enduring bonds are not in their nature. Yet, while it lasts, they share a moment of tenderness grizzlies seldom display. While the mating season brings solitary grizzlies together, it sends the companionable bison into an uproar. Bulls are built for the battles of the rut. They wield their massive heads as both weapon and defense. They must protect their own bodies as they twist and turn, pressing for an advantage. They are one-ton warriors, and each breeding season, more than a few are fatally wounded. This young bull must have taken on more than his match and has suffered a head injury. Round and round he turns, unable to find his way forward. Then, remarkably, he makes it to solid ground. Bison are as tough as they come. Days later, the injured bull staggers on, alone, but still alive. For the grizzlies, this year's battle for Yellowstone is coming to a close. It's beginning to snow. One by one, the bears retreat to their dens. Winter settles in. The snow brings elk down from the high country to wintering grounds in the valleys. And wherever the elk go, the wolves follow. Winter is the season when wolves are riding high. Severe conditions always work in their favor, wearing down their prey. The deeper the snow, the better the hunting. No bears will contest the carcass, but many other scavengers gather at the feast. Eagles, ravens, magpies and coyotes are uninvited guests at every kill. Though wolves have the undisputed upper hand, they make the long winter easier for all these other carnivores. As long as there are elk, the wolves will provide. But all these hungry scavengers steal so much meat that they may be one reason why the wolves form packs, to protect their own share of the kill. Come February, wolves go visiting, pack to pack. Now is their season for courting and mating. If a stranger comes calling, yearling females and pups come out to greet him. He'll please them all if he can, but what he's really after is a willing partner and a private rendezvous. Yet even the most intimate moment often requires the pack's approval. The alpha pair that leads the pack may share a bond that lasts for life. But all this togetherness comes down to just one thing. Wolves need each other. Wolves are accustomed to working year-round and feeding many mouths. But come the end of winter, it can take the abilities of a bear to get the job done. As the ice begins to thaw, a frozen pond becomes treacherous. Solid one moment, soft the next. A wolf has discovered its most recent victim. The wolves weigh about 45 kilos and cannot trust the ice to hold them. They can see the carcass and would take the handout, but it just isn't worth the risk. As the pond continues to freeze and thaw, coyotes venture onto the ice. At 14 kilos, they are light enough to cross it, but not strong enough to move the carcass. If the ice melts much more, they won't be able to reach the carcass at all. For once, a grizzly, fresh from his den, arrives as something of a hero. He's certain to fall through. But his massive strength will come to the rescue. It's only when his coat is soaking wet that you can see how thin he is and why this carcass is worth so much effort. As the bear reaches shore with the prize, even the ravens can appreciate his labors. And there'll be bones for the coyotes, after all. Dawn sends an eerie smoke through the remains of a forest fire. It's moisture vaporizing from the blackened trunks as they warm up in the sun. Though the fire killed the trees, a wild garden springs up at their charred feet, rich with minerals from the ash. Grizzlies seek out this fresh, nutritious salad. A great grey owl dozes at the edge of a burn. He's been up all night hunting. But a robin has a nest nearby. In Yellowstone, conflicts can flare up in any corner. Until the owl leaves, there'll be no rest for either of them. A grizzly has come to the recovering burn to feast on daisies, asters, fireweed, and cow parsnip, teaching her yearling cub that this is a good place to forage. A cub has to learn a great variety of plants and where to find them at what time of year. And while one cub studies this lesson, another follows its mother onto the calving grounds of the elk. Grizzlies aren't full-time predators like the wolves, but they still take their toll of elk calves each spring. The bear moves through the grass with a purpose. She relies on her nose, testing the air and searching the ground for the scent of elk. It's all her tiny cub can do to keep up. For the calf, the brief dance between birth and death will be over in a moment. For the cub, it's a first step in honing a skill that will help him succeed in Yellowstone. Yet bears have many ways to make a living. Wolves must hunt to survive. But a grizzly's life is full of choice. Old Scarface may no longer be able to chase down elk, but he's managed to catch a fish. And as he wanders his range, there will be mushrooms and dandelions, ants and earthworms, biscuit root and berries to harvest. The grizzly needs a kingdom vast and varied and complex. He needs all of Yellowstone. In this cauldron of competition and conflict, a grizzly sometimes gets to relax. He retrieves a mule deer he has stashed in the grass by the lake, and for once he has a whole carcass to himself. Well, almost. He takes his time over a delicate morsel. It's not often he gets to enjoy the little things in life. Then, after lunch, a nap. That is, until biting flies discover the grass-covered carrion he's using for a pillow. He retreats to the cool waters for some sweet relief. By the end of summer, all activity is focused on the coming winter. Grizzlies head up high for the most important harvest of the year. The Clark's nutcracker is up there already, collecting the seeds of the whitebark pine. Squirrels are also gathering their winter seed store. The birds will disperse the seeds, but the squirrels will cache them. And that's what the grizzly is looking for. The bear digs up their work. The seeds are rich in fats, and the bear takes in as many calories as she can. These seeds are crucial to grizzlies, but the cones don't fall to the ground. Grizzlies often rely on someone else to climb up and harvest them. Black bears can make it almost to the top. They'll bring the branches and cones to the ground and in reach of the grizzly. The mighty bear may be dominant among these many creatures, but she's also dependent on all their efforts. In this tale of two predators, each succeeds according to its nature. This enormous male is waiting on the wolves. He's staked out in the territory of the Molly's pack. And here they come, right on schedule. Instead of starting some kind of fight, the grizzly tags along with the pack. The bear is huge. He looks to be almost 300 kilos, and the wolves seem resigned to his presence. The wolves attend to their task. They're here to hunt. The bear lets them go. He's in no hurry. But as soon as the wolves have accomplished a kill, he's suddenly quick on the scene. This is the way of things in Yellowstone. A wolf pack working together is the greatest predator there is. But even the mollies, 14 wolves strong, know how to step aside for one large bear. A grizzly in his prime is the master here. He makes the most of the skills of others and takes from them all in turn. The wolves must simply bide their time and wait for him to leave. Old Scarface is past challenging a wolf pack. He's up in the whitebark pine forest, where it's already starting to snow. Winter is closing in. The pine seeds are all but gone. Soon there'll be nothing left to eat. Slowly, limping now with age and effort, he makes the climb up the snowy slope. His den and a long winter's rest are waiting. By the end of November, the grizzlies of Yellowstone have gone to bed. Once again, Yellowstone is wolf country. At least, that's how the story is supposed to end. But here, on Christmas Day, 4 weeks late for hibernation, a grizzly sits on a wolf kill. Is this the start of something new? A grizzly, out in winter, breaking all the rules? The coyote grabs a bite and runs. This is not good news to him. Will the bear be waiting at every kill all winter? The bear is wide awake and appears to enjoy being out past his bedtime. After all, it is Christmas, and he's discovered a satisfying secret. Although it's winter, he may not have to hide from hunger. Wolves are doing the hunting for him.
Adult wolverines can cover vast distances over the harshest of terrain, even in the dead of winter. But like any superhero animal, wolverines have a weakness. And it's a big one.
A wolverine at 35 below zero can just pretty much kick back and relax. I mean, they can handle it. But what about the upper end? There's got to be some point where it's just too hot.
Wolverines will only make dens in snow that lasts until the second week of May. Global warming is reducing the number of places for them to den.
Usually, climate change is a very gradual, long-term thing, and animals can often adjust, unless there's some specific characteristic of the climate that they are directly tied to. And we think that may be the case with the wolverine in its dependence on snow.
Unless glaciers, wolverines are able to adapt to a changing climate, populations here may disappear. Other animals face a similar predicament. One may be more vulnerable to global warming than any other mammal in the lower 48. It's called a pika, an elusive species with extraordinary qualities. Lucas Moyer-Horner searches for pikas in high-altitude rocky outcrops. He studies their behavior and tries to get a count.
They only can live in talus fields, boulder piles, and those are only found in mountain ranges.
Even if he can't see them, he can count their food caches and note their distinct sound.
That's a pika. Okay, here's a pika hay pile.
Few visitors get to see a pika, but just when you least expect it.
Here's a pika right now.
A rare encounter with one of the most uniquely adapted mammals on the planet. And this one isn't shy.
I've never had him do that before.
It most likely wants the salt from the sweat on Lucas's clothes.
Oh, he actually got through my pants. Congratulations. You shoot a hole through my pants.
Pikas are used to getting nutrition from unusual places. They are so adapted to the cold, they don't hibernate, but stay under these rocks beneath up to 20 feet of snow for 8 to 9 months of the year. To survive, they'll even eat their own feces.
There's some nutritional value to it, and they'll actually collect the feces of other species too and eat that. Like this is some marmot scat right here.
The problem comes when it gets too warm.
If they're outside an ambient temperature of about 80 degrees Fahrenheit, they'll die after about half an hour of exposure. I think they're emblematic of the type of animal that is going to have trouble dealing with climate change. And I think we can learn a lot from how they respond.
Southern populations will almost certainly disappear as it gets warmer. The only question, how long before that happens here?
There are a lot of changes here. Glacier Park's going to look a lot different without snow and ice.
Dan reaches a major milestone on his hike to Blackfoot Glacier. he gets his first good look since part of it collapsed 2 years ago. Even at a distance, he's shocked. Blackfoot was once the largest glacier in Glacier National Park. Now, from afar, Dan Faegre sees it breaking up.
The whole glacier is really coming apart. And now it looks like there's 80, 100 feet of ice is melted. This is quite a bit different than when we last saw it.
For a more detailed assessment of glacier melt, scientists dig into the archives. A good view of a glacier is precious to an expert like Dan.
Yep, okay, we're getting closer.
If he can get in the exact right spot.
Okay, this is looking good.
Sexton Glacier is one where the melting isn't so obvious. Dan aligns his camera to match a photo taken in 1930.
Well, there we can see the glacier as it was. There was an open meadow. There's a guy on a horse there. There's a photographer there. Well, I think this is probably the exact perspective.
Subtle differences tell him this glacier is thinning. Elsewhere, old photographs side by side with new shots show extreme changes. It's a park-wide meltdown. Even glaciers that showed little melting for decades now rapidly retreat. And that's not the only change Dan sees. Notice the species of conifer.
This entire scene has changed because there's no longer whitebark pine here. They've been killed. You're not only seeing changes in glaciers, but you're seeing changes in the trees in the same photograph.
Those missing trees, whitebark pine, can still be found in the park. And those who search for them hold great hope for the tree's future.
It's 0.18 miles, so off in this direction.
Rebecca Lawrence and her group scour the backcountry for survivors of blister rust, a disease caused by a fungus that strangles whitebark pine.
They start to die from the top down. This is pretty typical. The whitebark population in Glacier used to be a fifth of the forest, and there are huge stands throughout the park that are just decimated and just skeletons, essentially.
The fungus was accidentally brought to North America from Europe around 1910. How it may spread with global warming, no one knows for certain. This pine's seeds are high in fat. They're a key food source for many species. So every pine lost hurts. The good news? Every now and then, specialists find a whitebark pine that seems to be resistant.
I'm so excited.
Good. Tight on the rope.
Climb away.
You think I should go a little higher?
Stacy Jacobson Burgard climbs 30 feet in search of just the right cones.
The pollen cones look really healthy. They look beautiful.
There's a chance that the seeds may also grow into trees resistant to rust.
So these are the female cones for next year. They take 2 years to develop.
In the meantime, they can be eaten by squirrels and birds.
Well, this is a cone that's been predated by probably a squirrel. So we're trying to prevent the squirrels from eating the cones right now so that we can collect the seeds and to help maintain the population.
Okay, are you ready with my cages?
So the team uses mesh cages to protect the cones.
Okay. I'm going to just check the bottom again. Make sure that I don't have any openings there for critters. It looks good. They're tight. I'm happy with them.
In a few months, the team will return to collect healthy seeds. They'll grow them in a Forest Service nursery and replant the young trees in the wild. Already, more than 6,000 have been planted.
Our last white bark pine planting had 72% survival. It makes me feel like maybe we can help the species stay without slipping over the edge of extinction.
Glacier Park managers fight to protect plants and animals threatened by warming. But nothing in our power will stop the glaciers themselves from disappearing.
It does look steeper than we thought, doesn't it?
Dan Faegre and his group hike their last mile to Blackfoot Glacier and the section that collapsed.
When we get across that one section, we don't know how big the streams are and how dangerous it'll be to cross.
What they find will help estimate how long it will be before all the glaciers are gone for good. At last, over the last ridge to Blackfoot, Dan Faegre braces himself for the worst. Dramatic signs of how quickly Glacier National Park will lose its glaciers. But what they find first is a paradise, revealed by the receding glacier. The extent of which they've never seen firsthand.
It's pretty impressive.
Blackfoot Glacier has carved the rocks here into shelves and steeps. They now channel pristine water into aqua-green lakes. And spectacular cascades.
The glaciers are retreating and revealing all this sculpted landscape, and it's really kind of like a large playground. It's kind of an amphitheater of 1,000 waterfalls. Just on the edges, there's a little bit of fringe of vegetation.
The ice used to reach more than 100 feet above Dan's head. Now, he walks on bare rock. As the glacier retreats, it leaves a signature.
And you can see all the striations where rock that was embedded at the bottom of the glacier has scraped across this. That's a very telltale sign that this area has been heavily worked by an active glacier.
Large chunks of ice break off without warning.
We would try to get up on high ground. We have to move very quickly.
Dan cautiously makes it to the leading edge of Blackfoot. For the first time, he can see up close what is seasonal snow versus what is permanent ice.
This is pretty massive. I mean, we have a face here that's 30, 40 feet high, and this is what broke off from the rest of the glacier and went cascading down behind us here. Once you see some disintegration occurring like this, the models that rely on gradual melting are basically not so good anymore. These glaciers are definitely melting 3 to 4 times faster than they used to. As the glacier thins and moves over some of the humpy topography, it just shatters, it just disintegrates. And so it's hard to believe that a glacier can go away this quickly, but when you have a situation like this, these glaciers could be gone in a decade or so.
Everyone thought the glaciers would be here for at least 20 more years. Now it seems about 10. Blackfoot itself, once the park's largest glacier, now has areas so thin they'll likely go even faster. The landscape it carved will remain, but without the ice melt in late summer, most of these waterfalls will cease to flow. This brand new valley of roaring cascades will become a mere whisper.
It'll definitely be sad to see the glaciers go. But when you see this sculpted landscape, it's really a very kind of aesthetic area to be in. This is going to be an interesting part of the park for a long time, even after the glaciers are gone.
This wilderness is undergoing dramatic changes that we are only beginning to understand. Plants and animals have little time left to adapt to a warmer park. Bears will likely fare better than most. Others will fight to adapt. The more sensitive may be lost from the park altogether. What will remain is a dramatic new landscape. Glacier National Park will keep its name. Even when the ice is gone, the impact of the glaciers will live on. They are like giant sculptors, leaving us with a great work of art to admire for eternity.